The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
Hey everyone, it's the Shepnaz podcast. Here at Shepherd Church, everything we do is to connect our community in a meaningful relationship with Christ. I'm Joe, and I get to host this podcast, and I serve in a discipling role here at Shepherd. And today we've got a special guest, Bob Stephenson. He's here to talk about his story and how God has proven faithful in his life and the things that he gets to be a part of here at Shepherd. So stick around, it all starts right now. Hey Bob, thanks for being here today, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah? You getting any riding in?
Well,
it's at least sunny.
Part of the problem with riding in the wintertime for me is I have a long gravel driveway, and when we get snow and it freezes, it's kind of hard to get the bike down the driveway.
Yeah.
However, I've been known to trailer the bike out so I could ride. So
I was just thinking it's been sunny. I had to buy sunglasses yesterday, but I haven't had to use them for like 2 months. And they were broken, and I hadn't.
You're talking about that bright ball in the sky.
Yeah, that thing that appeared.
Yes.
On a certain day of creation yesterday. All right, so Bob's here today. We're going to talk more about him and his riding skills. But before we do, I'd love for people who might not know you, they might just kind of see you walking around on Sunday and you're greeting people and saying hello. I'd love if you would maybe kind of introduce yourself and kind of talk a little bit about your family and where you've been.
Sure. So I grew up in Akron. I was raised in a Christian home. I went to Christian schools up through early high school, then went to public high school. 2 weeks after I graduated from high school, I went into the Army. I served 4 years in the Army. I am a proud veteran. I take that very seriously. If you don't know me, I'll let you know that real quick. After my time in the Army, eventually I met my now wife, Christy, and we're celebrating. We'll be going on 37 years this year.
Congratulations.
And she's the best thing that ever happened to me. Just ask anybody.
They'll be sure to tell you.
They will. I have 2 adult children. Kelly is our older daughter, and Curtis is our younger son. Curtis just recently signed on with the Gahanna Police Department, so we're glad to have him back in Gahanna and serving locally. We've been coming to Shepherd since 2000, and have been actively involved with Shepherd since we've been here.
Okay. And so you said you grew up in a Christian home, had Christian schooling, but could you give us, because I, same way, had wonderful Christian parents, spent time in a Christian school, but I have a pretty, substantial time where I recognized that I came to faith. Could you maybe share a little bit of a story about where that became real to you, even though you probably knew Jesus your whole life? Was there a moment that like something changed for you?
Yeah. It's kind of a typical story for us church kids.
Yeah.
We grew up believing, but we claimed our parents' faith.
Yeah.
I was actively involved in a lot of things. I even spent some time in school going around and talking about faith and believing, and back in the day there was a lot of stuff happening in the late 70s, and it was just a crazy time. But I still never really owned that. My time in the Army. Prior to going into the Army, and my first few years in the Army were not a good time in my life. There were a lot of things that were very contrary to the way I was raised, which is why I firmly believe that if you raise up a child in the way they should go, they won't depart from it. Well, I did, but I came back. Yeah. And late in my career in the Army was when I realized that I needed a Savior, and I was able to claim that for myself. And so since 1980, I don't have some particular date, but since 1980, that has been my life ever since, and I have no question of whose I am and who I belong to.
Very cool. Well, you said you've been a part of Shepherd for quite some time. Could you give us a snapshot of some of the things that you get to be a part of at Shepherd?
Sure. Currently, I have several things that I do. The primary thing that I do with Shepherd is I'm president of Full Armor Bikers, the Full Armor Biker Ministry. I also serve on our security team. And I'm also on the board. And that's a responsibility I take seriously, and I'm kind of honored to be able to have people believe that I might have some valuable input.
No, we're thankful to have you on the board. Thankful. Well, I want to talk more about, we're going to talk more about Full Armor and about that ministry, that the particular one that you lead. But it's more of a lengthy conversation. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to unpack that and kind of hear about what Full Armor is, maybe how people can get involved in some of the things you have coming up. So don't go anywhere. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
As we've been diving into the teachings of biblical stewardship, we realize the importance of giving you the tools to get from where you are to where you need to be. With that in mind, Shepherd Church has secured a site license for Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. This is free to all those who call Shepherd Church their home. This includes all of their premium online resources and every dollar budgeting app for all of 2023.
All right, Bob. Well, thanks for being here once again. You were talking about how you get to be the president of Full Armor Bikers. And I'd like to talk more about that. I think biker ministry isn't necessarily a new concept in churches,
Right.
relatively new maybe, but not new in that people wouldn't know that churches do it, but it might sometimes be misunderstood. So I'd love for you to unpack what Full Armor ministry is here and kind of what kind of encapsulates.
Sure. Yeah. A motorcycle ministry, riding and its effect in and on the church is not a new thing. And biker groups run a whole gambit of what they do and how they affect and impact the church. Specifically to Full Armor, we are a fellowship riding club, if you want to call us a club. We're not a club. We are not a motorcycle club or motorcycle ministry in the context of the biker world. We are not part of a national organization or even a regional organization. We are specific to Shepherd. We're a ministry only at Shepherd. We don't try to recruit out and start other Full Armor ministries anywhere else.
Okay.
It's here. And so being here, that means that we're available to support anything that happens at Shepherd and how they need us. A lot of times it seems like we're relegated to be the parking ministry for large events. And that's okay, because if nothing else, when we're wearing our patches and our leather, it draws a little bit of attention and maybe even gives us a little authority in the parking lot. And that's a good thing. We can watch for things to be happening, because honestly, as bikers, you get in a pretty good habit of watching traffic. It can impact your life immediately. So most riders are pretty sharp to what's going on the road. Being in this ministry, it's a great fellowship. It's such a cool way to have small group ministry because of the common factor of riding.
You share something.
People that ride tend to group together. For folks that aren't good at fellowship, it's something that's easy to talk about. When we go to any kind of an event where there's motorcycles, you already have something to talk about. You're not standing around talking about the weather because you don't know what else to do. It's not an awkward thing, and so it's just a natural kind of a fellowship that can happen.
What are some of the things that you guys do through Full Armor?
Well, everybody that sees anything we post on Facebook are convinced all we do is eat. And what I like to say is I eat 3 times a day. You just happen to see a lot of pictures. We ride. We ride to a lot of places, to a lot of things. That usually involves eating. We ride twice a month through our riding months. It's scheduled rides, and yes, it's usually to someplace to eat, because if you've been on the road for 2 hours, you get hungry. We ride to churches, Nazarene churches in the area, just to show up and say, hey, we're here to support you, and just let you know we're out here, we're praying for you, and we're just visiting to see what's going on. And we eat. In our winter months, obviously we're not riding regularly, but we have a weekly Bible study that is the biker Bible study, but it's open to anybody. It's a different kind of a Bible study. Currently, we're going through the book, The Bait of Satan, so it can vary. We've done Andy Griffith Bible study. We've done Rooted. We've done several different kinds of things. Sometimes we only do the sermon notes, and that takes a full hour in itself sometimes. The great thing about our Bible study is it's open to let us go whatever direction it ends up going. And then we eat. So there's a common thing there. We support a lot of the stuff that goes on here at Shepherd, especially with children's ministries, just because they can use the extra help, and we enjoy doing it, and it gets the kids familiar with us, and and it's fun.
Yeah. And then I know that we as a church and specifically Former have supported something called the Rusty Bellamy Bikes for Missions.
Sure.
Could you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure.
Because I think it's a really cool ministry opportunity that we have that kind of expands what we do locally through the biker ministry to the world.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll throw out acronyms or things, and folks, sometimes I forget that folks don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I always invite folks to ask. But one of the things that's important to us is the Rusty Bellamy Bikes for Missions Fund, and that's controlled by NMF, which is the Nazarene Motorcycle Fellowship.
Okay.
Christy and I and Larry and Phyllis are on the NMF Council at the national level, and we do several things in NMF. One of those is to help resource Nazarene churches to know how to do biker ministry.
Okay.
And part of that is also the Rusty Bellamy Bikes for Missions. That plan, that fundraising that we do, first of all, it encourages any biker ministries, when you have an event, take donations for Rusty Bellamy. We raise that money, and through a process that we advertise out around the world, pastors around the world that don't have transportation can fill out an application and ask for a motorcycle. And what we do is we buy that motorcycle in country. So if you're in Brazil and you make it through the application process, we will send the money. You buy the bike locally. That way we're not shipping the bike. We don't have ownership of the bike. And we supply pastors around the world that don't have transportation. Sometimes those guys might be walking. They might be riding a cow. However they get there. One thing that I'm proud to say is that over the years that we've collected money at Shepherd, Shepherd has been responsible for placing over 27 motorcycles around the world.
That's awesome.
And Shepherd's just been a great supporter of that.
Yeah. Well, and like a lot of those pastors, what we don't understand sometimes here, because there's a church on every corner and most have full-time pastors, and a lot of the places that we're sending bikes to, you have pastors who pastoring 4 or 5 churches at a time, and they got to get to each one. And what we're doing is giving the ability to make it to where they need to go so that they can pastor well, and really give them a leg up on what they're doing.
Absolutely. One of my favorite stories about that is a pastor in I believe it was in Africa was reaching out to 15 churches in a month's period, because first of all, he had that many churches, but that's all he could get to because he was walking or however he could get there. And we were able to provide him a motorcycle. Now, in my American mindset, he can now reach those 15 churches quicker and he can take it easy. Well, what he did was he doubled his churches. And it just made him more effective in what he was doing. And he wasn't slacking. He was getting out and doing it. Yep.
You talked about how you are, like, Full Armor is a ministry of Shepherd, but you and we support the Nazarene Motorcycle Foundation, and that's a pretty close-knit community throughout the country.
Yep.
And I think you and I have talked about it before, that we actually have some mutual friends.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna make sure that Padre down there in the Space Coast hears this podcast.
Excellent.
And when we introduce you as Bob, but that's not how a lot of people know you.
Nope, I'm known as Gadget.
Yeah. And so there's always another name.
Yep.
And so
we all have road names and like Padre and Madre.
Padre and Madre. Yep. So we'll make sure that they hear this. And we love you, Padre.
Absolutely.
Always.
Good people.
Yeah. So coming up soon, there is something that could help support Full Armor Bikers and what you guys support.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the chili cook-off and dessert auction?
Sure can. So first of all, folks probably wonder why we do the chili cook-off and dessert auction as a fundraiser. The primary reason for that is Full Armor is not a budgeted ministry. And so we do what we can through donations and events to raise money for what we do as Full Armor. And I won't talk about this too long because I want to talk about the chili cook-off.
You're fine. It's good. It's
But
good
we
for people to know.
we use that money for things like Biker Sunday. So we bring in a bunch of bikers and we feed them at no cost. Someone has to pay for that. So we cover Biker Sunday and the expenses that are incurred there. When we're out eating, one of the policies that we have as Full Armor Ministries is if we're out in a restaurant anywhere and there's a veteran, we'll pay for their meal. We've done that on several occasions. We'll get thank you cards back from people all over the state, just thanking us for something that wasn't necessary. We've been able to help families that have had needs. We've helped out with youth mission trips. And so we're not in it to make the money. We're in it to be the resource and the support and the fellowship wherever we can be. And one of the ways we do that is with the chili cook-off and the dessert auction. Sorry. First of all, we combine the two events because the success of both brings that many more people into one location, and it just works out great. The chili cook-off is just what it is. You make a pot of chili, you bring a pot of chili. Everybody gets to sample that, and then we take People's Choice votes, and we give out trophies for the first 3 winners. And it's just bragging rights. It's nothing more than that. But who doesn't like a trophy and bragging rights?
Sure.
And the way that works is if you enter a chili, you don't have to pay for the entrance fee. But anybody else that attends, we ask that they cover the expense by buying tickets at the door. And then that allows you to sample as many or as few as you want. Sometimes we'll have 10 pots. Sometimes we've had 30 pots of chili. So there can be a lot of food, and it's a fun event. Then we tag on to the end of that a dessert auction. People donate desserts, some of the finest sweets in the world, including the President's Pie, which is an award winner in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have a professional auctioneer that volunteers his time, and he is a hoot, and he makes an auction fun, and he helps us raise a lot of money.
Well, the chili cook-off and dessert auction happens on February 19th, 4 o'clock. You can learn more about that by going to shepnaz.org, looking under the upcoming events to kind of see how it works. If you want to put a pot of chili in, it's got instructions on how to do that. If you just want to come and be a part of it, it'd be a great time for you to come out and support something like this. Also, maybe get some good food and a nice dessert. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to kind of, when it comes to biker ministry or what you're a part of, like if you wanted to kind of get the message out to people, because I think that it's, I work with our teenagers, and I think youth ministry sometimes is one of the most hidden ministries in the church because it happens on a different night of the week. And I feel like Full Armor Bikers could be that too, except that on Sunday I see lots of you in your gear.
Yep.
That it's sort of a hidden thing. So if you wanted people to know a little bit more about it, what would you say to them?
You can always find out information about Full Armor Bikers on our website, and that's fullarmorbikers.com. That website has information about who we are, what we are. It has our ride calendar, information on rides and events that are coming up. There's a contact us page. You can get a hold of me directly. If you just have a prayer request, we have a link on our website just for prayer requests. As a matter of fact, a lot of our bikes sport a QR code that'll take you directly to the prayer request link on our website.
Oh, very cool.
Because we'll pray for you. We've been known to break out in prayer in a number of restaurants around the state, and that's kind of cool in itself.
Yeah.
You'll always see full armor patches and logos around our church, and that's intentional. If any of our friends that don't come to church show up on any given Sunday, we want them to know, here we are, and you've got someone that you can link up with. So that's why you always see full armor somewhere in our building. And Shepherd's great about supporting what our bikers are and what we do.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, Bob, I want to thank you for coming on, man. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Thankful to have you.
Appreciate you having me.
Or I'm sorry, Gadget. Thanks for being here, man. And be on the lookout for Biker Sunday coming up in the fall.
Yep.
In the fall.
Yep. Second Sunday of August every year.
Second Sunday of August.
Yep.
And we want you to be a part of that. But that's going to take care of today's episode. We want you not to miss something. We want you to share this with your friends. Anywhere you find audio, you could find it. We'd love it if you'd leave us a nice 5-star review. And don't forget that we've got an email. You can send us your thoughts, your questions, or kind of anything you want us to know. It's podcast@shepnaz.org. Always learn more about what God's doing at Shepherd through our app, our social media pages, and of course online at shepnaz.org. But for Gadget, I'm Joey. Have a great rest of your day.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.